Well, Attorney General William Barr and FBI Director Christopher Wray approving of the FISA bill that passed the House today with some changes. We don't know whether we can call them reforms yet. There were no committee hearings. There was no public discussion whatsoever. This secret court, a Soviet-like court system for the surveillance of supposedly foreigners on our soil. But it turns out to be a Soviet-style court system used in a Soviet-style way. Back to the Attorney General. Writing today, I am pleased, he said, that the bill contains a number of provisions Director Wray and I put forward to address past failures, end quote. We don't know which failures they are. We haven't seen a report. We haven't seen anyone held to account for the fraudulent use of those courts. But you can take apparently the Attorney General, he and good old Chris Wray, the head of the FBI, politically corrupt as it has been at the top for years. The FISA legislation passed, by the way, 278 to 136. I do want to point out 75 Republicans joined the Democrats to get that vote. The Senate is expected to vote on it tomorrow, the last congressional day before FISA expires. There must be this sense of urgency, this usual gambit that they pretend adds to the importance of the moment and the shoddiness of the vote and the reasons for it. Mitch McConnell says he strongly supports it. Joining us tonight, Andy McCarthy. He's former chief assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, National Review, contributing editor, Fox Business contributor. Andy, first, good to see you and to have you with us. I have to tell you,
nice to be here, Lou.
My blood boils to think that the Attorney General and Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Republican-controlled Senate, and Kevin McCarthy and a number of his colleagues in the House have just voted with the Democrats to simply move this aside and effectively in the dead of night without a public hearing, without any discussion or dialogue with the American people, and ignoring the president's demand for reform before it's reauthorized. This is a shoddy, sorry moment, I think. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you on that, Lou,
okay.
And that's because what was at stake here was not FISA reform. You're not going to get FISA reform unless somebody's got an appetite to deal with what's actually wrong with FISA, which is that it's not a judicial responsibility. And I quite agree with what you said about the court system. The court system is a travesty. I've had to deal with it I dealt with it as a prosecutor. I've dealt with it as an analyst for these years. If you want to reform what's wrong with FISA, you have to go to the structure of FISA. What was at stake here, even though it's called FISA, were three provisions of the Patriot Act that actually allow us to detect terrorists and I'm not talking about Carter Page types now, I'm talking about actual foreign clandestine agents who mean the United States harm. And the only reason this arose was those three provisions, which should not have a sunset on them to begin with, were due to expire on March 15th. To my mind, they should have just been reauthorized. And if you want to have a conversation about FISA reform, let's have it. But let's have a real one where we talk about what's really wrong here, the elephant in the room being the court.
Yeah, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. I think right now that this creates a channel to proceed that ignores all that has occurred to this point, which is over 3 years of abuse of the FISA court system. It shows that the Attorney General and Christopher Wray think that they somehow should have the power to tell every American, we're going to pat you on the head, just trust us. This ignorance has got to stop. And I don't care what you want to call it. If you want to go into the minutiae of what is sunsetting the provisions in this law, if you want to rip in whole cloth the entire FISA court system from our government, I would be just as happy. But to be told that we're not going to have public hearings, we're not going to have a report on the on all that has been, all the wrongs done by the FBI that at the top, the Justice Department. This is ignorance, and for it to be tolerated by the American people, and particularly the Republican Party, which has, with this president, been the most seriously, egregiously injured. The American people have been insulted, and now to have the chief law enforcement officer in the country say, you know, everything will be fine. Hell no, it's not fine. And it's time for everybody to grow up and understand that.
Yeah, well, Lou, I sympathize, in fact, emphatically, with the idea that there has to be a comeuppance for the wrong that's been done here. There's never been a statutory scheme in the history of the United States that's able to address what happened here, which is rogues carrying on as rogues. If an FBI agent is going to lie to a court, it doesn't matter what laws or rules that you have in place. All you do by ratcheting up the rules is make it harder for the law-abiding people to do their jobs.
I don't know where the law-abiding people are anymore, Andy. I don't know where they are. They're not running the Justice Department. I still haven't seen a final report from Benghazi, for crying out loud, and that has been 8 years. I have seen a Justice Department evolve into something that it's a hideous place where truth goes to die, and there are reckless prosecutors who mean to harm far more than they do to bring justice in any distorted, grotesque form that they consider justice. I mean, this is sickening what we're witnessing. And I hear so many people, Andy, who say, you know, there are lots of good people in that FBI. There are a lot of good people in that Justice Department. And I ask, where the hell are they? Where are the whistleblowers? Where are the people who knew damn well what was going on as this president is attacked and good people were injured? They'll never recover from it, and you and I both know that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, but Lou, I think that people only get held accountable by investigations that are aimed at the people who abuse their power. I don't think you get that out of
let me ask you this.
A statutory scheme. It just doesn't happen.
Well, here's what doesn't happen. Ron Johnson says he's going to investigate the Bidens, and today he stops a vote because he hasn't quite got that figured out. So we don't know whether he's now the senator from Wisconsin or the senator from Burisma. We hear from Lindsey Graham that he is going to investigate the investigators. More crap that is spewed from both sides of his mouth. And no one ever sees anything of any substance whatsoever because he is the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. It's a farce, and it's a sad, pathetic way in which to run a great constitutional republic.
Look, I can't argue with you about the big win, no rain aspect of what we get from particularly Republicans in Congress who tell us that they're going to investigate all these things and they never get investigated. But I will tell you that the Washington playbook is, in lieu of investigating people, let's pretend to have a big statutory reform. That's why I'm not going up in a balloon one way or the other about FISA reform. I'll believe it when I see it, and I'll believe there's an appetite for it when people say that they're willing to address the FISA court, which I don't hear anybody ready to address.
Well, I don't. I do hear the president saying he wants it reformed. I heard Ron Johnson say he wanted to investigate the Bidens, too. I also heard Lindsey Graham saying he was going to investigate the investigators and hold them to account. It's been, 14 months right now, and all I do is seem trying to get another booking on a Sunday talk show. Andy, I hope you stay in the fight for right, because we certainly need you there. We appreciate it.
Good to talk to you, Lou. Thank you.
Thank you. Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. The question is, do you believe the Republican-led Senate will vote for the FISA reauthorization legislation just approved by the House of Representatives? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Up next, the Wuhan virus, a major impact on one of this country's premier sporting